Welcome to VATPAC's flagship event, Milk Run Monday. This iconic series has brought pilots from Australia and around the globe together to fly the famous J-curve between Sydney and Melbourne. Its continuation for over 15 years has seen this event evolve from a small community of enthusiasts into a frenetic 4 hours that showcases the skills of our virtual air traffic controllers and typically sees over 200 aircraft movements. For this reason, it's extremely important that pilots are well prepared to fly the J-curve on Milk Run Monday. This briefing video will cover the essential knowledge you'll need, as well as explain some of the complex local procedures at Sydney and Melbourne.
We recommend that pilots use the new VATPAC pilot tools to find standard routes when flying in Australia. Then SimBrief or similar flight planning software to generate your operational flight plan. Ensure you file with the standard routes and levels for your direction of flight. New pilots should be aware that the free version of SimBrief does not access the latest AirRAC navigation data. VATSIM Code of Conduct 𝘏𝘂𝘃 requires that all pilots fly based on current navigational data and charts, and this is important for Milk Run Monday due to recent changes to SIDS, stars, and waypoints along the J-curve. If you're unable to purchase a Navigraph subscription for the latest AirRAC data, you can find current charts using the VATPAC pilot tools and manually program these SIDS and stars into your aircraft's FMC. Please ensure that you do comply with the speed and level restrictions on these charts. Connect to VATSIM using the ICAO call sign prefix of your chosen airline. On screen are the bays used by each operator at Sydney and Melbourne. For realism, you may choose to depart from the correct terminal for your airline, but feel free to connect at any unoccupied bay. You can check whether a bay is occupied using VATSIM radar or by connecting as an observer first. It's best practice to receive the current ATIS information prior to requesting clearance. Take note of the departure runways, operational information, meteorological conditions, and set the local QNH. You must be in receipt of the ATIS at the latest before you request taxi. In Australia, your airways clearance may be issued via voice or text.
Sydney delivery, Qantas 401 to Melbourne, request clearance.
Qantas 401 Sydney delivery, cleared to Melbourne via Wollongong, flight plan route. Runway 16 right, Rook 1 departure, Wollongong transition. Climb via SID to 5000, squawk 1436, departure frequency 123.0.
Cleared to Melbourne via Wollongong flight plan route, runway 16 right, Rook 1 departure, Wollongong transition. Climb via SID 5000, squawk 1436, departures on 123.0, Bay Domestic 5, Qantas 401.
Qantas 401.
If you receive a text clearance, known as a PDC, you are only required to read back your assigned SID, squawk code, and bay number to the delivery controller on the frequency.
Sydney delivery, Qantas 401, PDC readback.
Qantas 401 Sydney delivery.
Qantas 401, Rook 1 departure, Wollongong transition, squawk 3714, Bay Domestic 5.
Qantas 401.
Once you've received your airways clearance, program the SID into your FMC, enter the squawk code into your transponder, and set your initial level. You may be instructed to contact ground for pushback, remain on the delivery frequency, or, at Sydney, contact coordinator. If you are required to request pushback from delivery or coordinator, this will be reflected accordingly in the ATIS. Note that delivery and coordinator will not approve your pushback. They'll put you in a pushback queue with other departures and instruct you to monitor ground when it's your turn. You should begin pushing back immediately after you receive approval. Therefore, you should already have the tug connected and ready before requesting push. You can initiate the pushback process in your simulator, but leave the parking brake engaged until you receive approval from ground. Often, controllers won't specify a direction for your pushback, so you should refer to your charts to determine which direction you must face in order to exit the apron or taxi to your assigned runway. At Melbourne, you might occasionally be assigned a tow bar disconnect point for your push. Disconnect points are locations on the aprons and taxiways where a tug can disconnect from an aircraft, completing the pushback. You might hear
Velocity 895, pushback approved, tow to Sierra 8.
Jetstar 532, pushback approved, disconnect point Yankee 3.
The disconnect points are on the Melbourne parking bay's 20-9 Bravo chart. You can also find them at the URL on screen and in the video description. We recommend add-ons such as the Payware GSX or Freeware Toolbar Pushback to allow you to push to an assigned disconnect point. If you don't have this software, advise the ground controller that you're unable to comply with disconnect points. Before requesting taxi, double-check your flight plan and performance calculations, and review the ground chart so you know what to expect. Report receipt of the current terminal information when requesting taxi.
Rex 152, receipt of information Charlie, request taxi.
Taxi slow and sure, rather than fast and erratic. Domestic aircraft in Australia should switch to the tower frequency autonomously once at the holding point, or once holding short of taxiway Sierra at Sydney. You should not expect a contact tower instruction from ground. Report ready for departure on first contact with tower, and tune your departure frequency before you take off.
Melbourne Tower, Tigos 282, ready.
Tigos 282 Tower, g'day.
If you are assigned the Sydney or Melbourne radar SIDS, tower will give you an initial turn with or before your takeoff clearance. Turn to this assigned heading at the altitude that the chart indicates. On your departure, do not breach your initial level. These are the standard initial levels that you can expect, but you should use a level assigned by the controller in your clearance. Once airborne, call the departure controller as soon as possible and report your level passing and cleared level.
Departures Tigos 282 passing 2,800 climbing via SID to 5,000.
Tigos 282 Melbourne departures identified. Climb via SID to flight level 240.
You may be issued further climb via the SID. This means you should follow the altitude restrictions published on the SID. In Australia, the transition altitude is 10,000 feet and the transition level, flight level 110. When passing 10,000, set standard QNH. Once you have been identified by the departures controller, you are no longer required to report your level passing to subsequent ATC facilities. On first contact with centre or approach, only report your cleared level. During the en route phase of your flight, expect delays for sequencing. This can be done through speed control,
Qantas 741, reduced to mark decimal 75.
vectors,
Jetstar 382 for sequencing, turn left heading 340.
and holding patterns.
Rex 6418, hold at Buller, maintain flight level 180.
Seabird 11, hold at rivet 9,000 feet, inbound track 050 degrees. Right hand pattern, outbound time 1 minute.
If the controller advises star clearance available, or you are told to expect star clearance in a handoff, you should be prepared to receive and read back a star clearance.
Velocity 888, cleared Lizzie 9 Alpha arrival, runway 16. When ready, descend to flight level 250.
Cleared Lizzie 9 Alpha arrival, runway 16. When ready, descend flight level 250, velocity 888.
You'll likely receive a when ready descent. Do not descend immediately. Rather, you should wait until your calculated top of descent. As a courtesy to the controller, it's best practice to report leaving your cruise altitude once you begin descending, though if the frequency is very congested, do not make this radio call. Once you begin your descent, pilot workload increases significantly. Ensure you have already received the ATIS for your arrival, programmed your star, and briefed your approach. You may be issued speed assignments for your descent.
Qantas 10, maintain 300 knots until rivet.
Jetstar 132, on descent, maintain 280 knots into published speeds.
Ensure you program your aircraft to comply with these speeds, and don't hesitate to deploy spoilers for additional drag if necessary. If you are unsure when you can resume normal speed, you should ask the air traffic controller for clarification. The phrasing of some speed assignments can be ambiguous. Aircraft inbound Sydney should be prepared for rerouting via Rodale.
Melbourne Centre, Rex 152, flight level 310.
Rex 152, Melbourne Centre, g'day. Amended tracking via Odale Star when you're ready to copy.
Yep, ready to copy.
Rex 152, when able, you re-cleared direct Acme, thence Odale for the Odale 7 arrival. Runway 34 right, maintain flight level 310.
When ready, direct Acme, then Odale for Odale 7, runway 34 right, Rex 152.
Familiarise yourself with the reroute waypoints and, if necessary, promptly insert them into your FNC. On first contact with approach, advise receipt of the current ATIS information. You'll be assigned a runway and an approach expectation, as well as potentially a descent instruction. You are not required to read back the approach expectation.
Sydney approach, g'day, Jetstar 140, descending via star to 10,000, in our city X-ray.
Jetstar 140, Sydney approach. Runway 34 left, expect ILS, then independent visual approach when visual. descend via star to 6,000.
Runway 34 left, descend via star 6,000, Jet star 140.
The approach frequency will be one of the busiest during the event, so it's important you're constantly listening and ready to execute any instructions. The terminal manoeuvring area is not a large amount of airspace and can quickly become congested with arrivals and departures. The approach controller does not have a lot of space to sequence and ensure separation. For this reason, if you are assigned a speed, given a vector, or cleared direct to a waypoint, execute this instruction immediately. With vectors in particular, ensure you start turning the correct direction, because even an erroneous 5 seconds turning the wrong way can cause a dangerous conflict in the TMA. Sydney stars do not provide tracking directly to an initial approach fix, and require vectors to final. Do not delete the route discontinuity from 𝘏𝘰𝘴𝘵 or 𝘏𝑚𝑛𝑡𝑜 on the Rivet star, or from 𝘏𝑝 on the 𝘏𝑗𝑲𝑙 star. On screen is what you should do after the star terminus waypoints if you haven't yet received a vector from ATC. You must not exceed 250 knots below 10,000 feet, unless ATC has advised cancel speed restrictions, or you're assigned a speed above 250 knots. Arriving at Sydney, you may encounter a procedure known as Independent Visual Approaches, or IVAs. This is a type of visual approach that allows multiple aircraft on adjacent finals for the parallel runways without prescribed separation minima. You cannot be cleared for an IVA until you have the runway in sight, so you should report runway in sight as soon as possible. Then, you'll be given a heading to join final by Sydney Director or Approach, and should visually fly the approach.
Runway 34 right in sight, speedbird 8023.
Speedbird 8023, turn right, heading 310, join final, runway 34 right. From that heading, cleared independent visual approach.
Right, heading 310, from that heading, cleared IVA 34 right, speedbird 8023.
It's extremely important that you do not pass through the assigned runway centerline. Even if you haven't received a vector to join final, or a clearance for the approach, and are still flying perpendicular to the centerline, you should initiate a turn to final yourself. Passing through the centerline will cause a dangerous conflict with any traffic joining the parallel runway. If you're told to expect ILS approach, then independent visual approach when visual, it's likely that the cloud is low enough that you won't have the runway in sight on your base leg, and will therefore be instructed to track via an instrument approach until you are below cloud and become visual. From that point, you will be re-cleared the IVA and may proceed visually.
New Zealand 1984, turn left heading 360, intercept the localizer. Cleared ILS approach runway 34 left, not below 3000 until established on the glide path.
Left heading 360 to intercept the localizer, maintain 3000 until fully established. Cleared the ILS runway 34 left, New Zealand 1984. New Zealand 1984, visual.
New Zealand 1984, re-cleared independent visual approach.
We re-cleared the independent visual approach, 34 left, New Zealand 1984.
You may also be instructed to intercept the localizer for your assigned runway without a full approach clearance. It's important to note that this isn't a clearance for an ILS approach. You may intercept the localizer, but must not descend below your assigned altitude until you are cleared for the ILS or IVA.
If you are instructed to go around, you should immediately apply full toga thrust, climb to the missed approach altitude indicated on the charts, and await further instructions from either the tower or departure ATC. Due to the traffic load during Milk Run Monday, late landing clearances should be expected, as tower may attempt to squeeze out departures ahead of your landing, or the arrival sequence may be tightly packed. Despite this, it is still the pilot's discretion to abort the approach if you have not received a landing clearance by an altitude you have predetermined. If air traffic control instructs you to go around, comply with any heading or climb instructions as soon as possible to avoid any possible separation conflicts.
New Zealand 1984, go around. I say again, go around.
We are going around, New Zealand 1984.
New Zealand 1984, climb to 3000, turn left heading 310.
Climb 3000 feet and a left turn heading 310, New Zealand 1984.
New Zealand 1984, contact departures 123.0. See you again soon.
123.0. New Zealand 1984.
That concludes this pilot briefing video. Best of luck on Milk Run Monday, and we hope you have a safe flight.